It was the last days of November. Someone had left an envelope on my desk. No sender, no address. Inside was a yellowed, stained file and a single note written in shaky handwriting. "That baby still isn't crying." The name meant nothing to me, but something about it gnawed at my chest. The photo inside showed a crib, but there were no toys, no pillow inside, just pitch black emptiness. A GPS coordinate was scribbled on the back. When I opened the map, the pen dropped on a town long forgotten. Blackwater. Official record said it had been evacuated after a flood disaster, but I couldn't understand why there was almost no real information about it in any archive. Late that night, instinct told me to follow it. The next morning, I packed my bag and hit the road. The road turned to mud the moment asphalt gave out. GPS died at 6:17 a.m. The fog had rolled in so thick it crushed my visibility to nearly zero. When I stepped out of the car, the silence was unbearable, so deep I could hear my own heartbeat. The Blackwater sign stood in front of me, rotted and half buried in the earth. At the bottom, it read, "Population 0." As I took my first step into the town, the air carried the scent of burnt rubber and damp wood. Everything felt frozen in time. Once alive, now only shadows remained. There was no one around, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. And then, a curtain behind a window shifted just slightly. As I moved deeper into the town center, more buildings came into view, but one stood out, clearly different from the rest. An old clinic building. Its windows were shattered, yet something behind the glass pulsed with darkness. The door was slightly ajar. When I stepped inside, a sharp sting of formaldehyde burned my nose. Written across the floor in blood, just one word: shh. Old patient records from decades ago fluttered in the wind, and then I saw it, the baby crib, exactly like the one in the photo. But beneath it sat a voice recorder. No dust on it, like someone had just touched it yesterday. I pressed play. The voice that came out chilled me to the bone. A nurse's whisper. The mother ran from the room. "The baby still isn't crying." Then came a sudden scream, followed by a strange low hum. But what terrified me most was the final line on the tape. "If it doesn't make a sound, you won't see it." What did that even mean? Why would anyone fear a baby that never cries? I hit replay. This time, the scream was different. It sounded like it was saying my name. That wasn't possible. I'd never been here before, but somehow, this place remembered me. I found an old door leading down to the clinic's basement. It was nearly rusted shut, but not locked. The stairs groaned with every step like they might collapse beneath me at any moment. In the basement, I discovered a metal cabinet filled with files, each one stamped with bold letters, case number 0. When I opened them, the pages weren't medical records, just children's drawings. Most were sketches of babies, but all of them faceless. No eyes, no mouths, no noses, just empty space. But on the very last page, I saw my own childhood drawing. Same jacket, same haircut, just no eyes. As I held the file in my hands, a whisper suddenly came from the corner of the basement. I turned around. No one was there. But hanging on the wall was a cracked mirror. The reflection wasn't clear, but it wasn't me. The person staring back at me from inside the glass had the same face, the same clothes, only their eyes were completely black, empty. They reached out toward the glass. Without thinking, I did the same. Our fingertips almost touched when another crack split across the mirror. At that moment, a warmth rose in the basement. Not electric, not fire, more like breath. Then the version of me in a mirror began to smile. Slowly, but I wasn't smiling. And then the face in the mirror was gone. In the center of the town stood a ruined church. Its bell tower swayed slightly in the wind, but not a single sound came from it. The bells were still there, but their chains were gone. Inside the church, the pews had collapsed into the floor. Candles burned halfway down, books soaked in water, pages warped and unreadable. Carved into the pulpit were the words, "He whom does not cry, God does not hear." Just then, a tapping sound came from above, down from the bell tower. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavy beneath me. When I reached the bell chamber, there it was, a baby carriage, abandoned. Inside, nothing but an empty swaddle and a voice box. I opened it, and once again, the nurse's voice echoed through the silence. "We shouldn't have left it up here."
We shouldn't have left it up here.
The melody from the voice box kept ringing in my ears as I walked out of the town. I recognized the tune, but I had no idea why. When I opened the map again, the coordinates had changed on their own. This time, they pointed to a lake, Blackwater Lake. When I arrived, the water was nearly black. There was no wind, but still, small waves rippled across the surface. It looked like something beneath was pushing its way up. Just as I leaned toward the shore, an old stuffed toy floated up from the depths. And then, a woman's voice whispered, "Give him back."
Give him back.
After the lake, I moved deeper into the town, toward what remained of it. There, only one house still stood, number 39. The door was open. From inside came a child's lullaby. The moment I stepped in, the lullaby stopped. Handprints covered the walls, tiny, child-sized, but they looked like smears of black ash. I climbed the stairs slowly. At the top, a hallway stretched ahead, and at its end, a closed door. With every step toward it, my chest tightened. Above the door hung an old nameplate, Doctor. Miriam Greaves. A doctor? Could this woman be the one speaking in the nurse's voice? I turned the handle. The room beyond was empty. But on the walls, something wasn't. Every surface was covered in the same faceless image. A baby with no face. The only piece of furniture in the room was a dresser. I opened the drawer and found a yellow diary inside. On the first page, shaky handwriting read, "If it's silent, is it alive?" The entries were written by Dr. Miriam Greaves, the last doctor of the town before it vanished. The baby never cried after birth. It breathed, but never made a sound. Miriam observed the child for weeks, but then she began to lose her own voice. The final note read, "Stay with I too long, and you will go silent too." At that moment, my throat tightened, because in that room, I truly couldn't hear my own footsteps anymore. As I climbed upstairs, I glanced at my watch. It was 3 a.m. 5 minutes later, I checked again. Still 3 a.m. At the end of the hallway hung a clock face. Its hands were forked, like they were pointing in two directions at once. One toward the past, one toward the future. As I walked along the wall, footprints began to form on the floor, but they led backward, like I wasn't moving forward, like the prints were pulling me back. Every door stared at me like an eye. With every step, the walls pressed in closer. Then finally, I heard a sound like a heartbeat, as if the building itself had a pulse. "This place remembers you now, Marcus." I'd heard that voice before, once, long ago, but I couldn't remember who it belonged to. Or maybe someone I never truly forgot. In the director's office, I found an archive buried beneath layers of dust-covered files. One folder stood out, thicker than the rest. Case number 214, Marcus 5. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a childhood photo of me. On the back, handwritten words, "The Silent Baby, 1976. Beside it, a psychiatrist's notes read, "No emotional response at all, not even to pain, as if he isn't really here." At that moment, my legs gave out beneath me. Was this where I was born? Was Blackwater remembering me because I belonged here? Then why couldn't I remember anything? The lights flickered in the archive room, and my shadow didn't move with me. I was moving, but it stayed still on the wall. Then it turned toward me and smiled. "Do you remember how you learned to stay silent?" it whispered. I heard the voice, but its lips never moved. My shadow stepped forward. I tried to back away, but my feet lifted off the ground, not backward, inward, pulled deeper into the depths of my own mind. And then a scream, my own child scream, the first sound I'd ever made. "They taught you not to cry, Marcus. So why are you asking for your voice back now?" I remembered Nurse Clara. Every night she came into the room and wiped the tears from my face. "You're a strong boy, Marcus," she'd say. Don't cry, or they'll silence you too." But one night, I did cry. That night, I still hear the scream of that child waking up in his sleep. And by morning, Clara was gone. Everyone said she never existed, but I remember her eyes. And those eyes were the same ones staring back at me from the mirror. Clara was still here, with me, and now she was giving my silence back to me. I stepped into the backyard. Behind the basement, there was a grove I hadn't seen before. Inside, tiny graves made of stones lined the earth, each carved with the same sentence, "The child who lost their voice." The branches of the trees hung down like arms, touching the gravestones as if mourning. And on every stone sat a small voice box. I pressed one. A single line echoed out, "Please, let me cry." My heart nearly stopped. These children, they had been silenced because they couldn't express their pain. And I was one of them. When I returned to the building, everything had flipped upside down. The walls were where the ceiling should be. The table and chairs weren't on the floor, but clinging to the sky. I stood straight, but the world had forgotten gravity. A door opened. Inside was my childhood bed. On it, my teddy bear. And from inside its belly, a voice still came. "Marcus, why don't you speak?" My eyes filled with tears, and this time I cried. The bear fell silent, and slowly everything in the room began to return to normal. Maybe, just maybe, something had finally begun to heal. Suddenly, everything became clear in my mind. In 1976, this place was running experiments, not on medicine, but on children. Their goal? To create emotionless soldiers. Generations of kids who wouldn't cry, wouldn't fear, wouldn't feel. And I was the first subject. But Clara fought against it. She tried to take me away, but she failed. Then the system erased her. Her soul never left this building. All this time she had been watching over me in silence. And now, because of her, I remembered. In the final room on the administration floor, I found a tape recorder. A label on it read, "Final, Case 214. I pressed play. The voice that came out was mine, but not the child I once was. This was my voice, today's voice. If you're hearing this, then you've remembered. This recording belongs to Marcus Vale, the one who took back his voice. I had come here years ago, learned everything, and couldn't bear it. I silenced my own voice, erased my past, and now my voice was returning to me. As I left Blackwater, I looked up at the sky. For the first time, it was morning. The sun was rising. The silence was broken, not by fear, but by acceptance. The spirits were quiet now, because someone had finally heard them. I heard Clara's voice one last time. "You can cry now, Marcus, and so can the others." This place wasn't just an orphanage. It wasn't just a graveyard. It was the echo of the silenced. And now it was being heard. As I drove away, I glanced at the rearview mirror. I couldn't see the building anymore. It was like it had never existed. But instead of the weight in my chest, there was now a hollow space. My scream finally heard. My silence finally broken. Blackwater might still be out there somewhere, but I'm not part of it anymore. Now it's my turn to hear the screams of others.